Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Data Science Tips. Now, our last episode was about R, and I had showed you how to speed up your R functions. So, the suggestion I had given you was, avoid for loops and use vector operations. Today, we are going to see a similar thing in Python. Um, so, I have created a random sequence. So, let me just load this up. Import all the libraries. We are going to use Numpy and Pandas, which are the standard data science libraries. And I'm just going to create a random sequence of length 10,000. What I want to do is, for every element in this sequence, I want to find the average of the current element and its previous element, just like a previous video. And this time I also want to find the sum of those two elements, and I would just want to store it in a pandas data frame. Okay, and if it happens to be just the first element, then I'll just, for the average, I'll just divide that number by 2, and for the sum I'll just keep the same element because I don't have a previous element. Okay, and a simple way to do that is to put it in a for loop, and as my for loop goes through elements, I'll just create a new data frame of one row, and I'll just append that row to my my last data frame. So I'll start with an empty data frame, and as I go through the loop, I'll just keep appending it at the end. That's a standard way to do it. Many people use this way. So let's see how long this method takes. All right, so it took about 9 seconds. And let's see what results we get. Yeah, so we have a pandas data frame with 2 columns, mean and sum. And we see some numbers here. Okay. So it turns out that this is not the fastest way to do it. For loops can be inefficient in Python just like they are in R. So we are going to try an alternative method. Okay, we are going to use something called map. And map is very similar to the apply function in R. So you supply a list to it and a function. So I've created an anonymous function here. So it takes your index I and it does the same thing which the loop does. So if I equals 0, it will create a data frame where the first element is divided by 2. For the sum, I just take the same element, and if not, then I take the average of the current and the previous element, or I take the sum for the second. And then what I end up with is a long list of data frames. So map will return a list for every element in this list that you supply. It will return a list, and what you have to do is you have to concatenate all of them to create your final data frame. So for that you have to use pd.concat. Okay, so let's see how long this method takes. All right, so it took about half the time as the previous method. It took about 4.5 to 5 seconds. So it's not that much faster, but slightly faster. But does it give the same results? Yeah, I think it does. So you get the same mean and sum, and you see the same values here, what you saw in the previous example. Right. But is there a faster way to do this? All right, so here's what I tried. What is an average after all? So it is a dot product with a vector 0.5, 0.5. And a sum essentially is a vector, is a dot product with 1, 1. Right? So what I did was I created a shifted version of the random sequence. So the way to do that is do np.roll. If you supply 1, it just shifts this sequence to the right by 1. And in the first place, I just put 0. And then I create a matrix with these two sequences. So this would be a matrix with 10,000 rows and 2 columns. and this is the way to do it. And then I create my multiplier vectors, which will give me the average and the sum, right? And then I do a dot product. So I take my random matrix and I do a dot product with these two vectors, and these will give me a matrix with 10,000 rows and 2 columns, and those columns will contain the average and the sum. And the only thing I need to do is convert that matrix to a pandas data frame using pd.dataframe, and I provide the column names here. Right? Now let me see how long this takes. Oh, it's almost instantaneous. So it takes only 4 milliseconds. It's 1,000 times faster than our previous method. Does it give the same result? Yeah, it does. So there you go. So use Numpy and Pandas. They are designed to be super fast. And don't use for loops. Certainly don't use an append statement like this. This is a very slow operation. All right, that's it for today. Thank you.